Can you go back over that whole decision to transfer and leave Notre Dame? How much of a part did Eddie play in all of that?
Well, he played a big part because coming out of high school, it was Notre Dame and Arkansas for me. And it was a lot closer than people thought. I mean, I knew my family wanted me to go to Notre Dame. I was Catholic and still am Catholic. And, that played a major part in it, but just really, really liked Arkansas. And then I knew when the season was over at Notre Dame, I was going to transfer. So my dad contacted Coach. Season wanted to was a spot for me, and Coach Sutton absolutely. We had a few more conversations, and then and when my finals were over, I was back, and you know what hit the fan, and we got the hell out of Dodge.
Now, sometimes when you're being recruited and all that, you have one impression. Then when you get somewhere, it's like totally different. So, what was it like when you got around Coach Sutton and you were part of all that? I mean, did anything change? Was it better? I mean, did you?
Oh, it was better. I mean, it was spot on what he said, how it was going to be. Uh, the requirements of going to class, the 3Ds: discipline, dedication, and defense. And you were going to do those things, and that you were going to have a great time, but you were going to work. You're going to have a lot of fun being at the university, a lot of fun playing basketball. You're going to win a lot of games, but you're going to put in a lot of work. And so it was spot on what he said.
I watched almost all of those practices because, as you know, he was very open and we were all over there every day. And what I observed was that he would let his assistant coaches do a lot of stuff, but there were times when he was going to get actively involved. And when he did, got pretty intense. Just talk about that part of it.
Well, it usually was when we weren't doing something the way he wanted it done, and it was the third or fourth time we had messed it up. And then you would hear, "Hold on, Joe, you're supposed to and he would walk around with his hands in his pocket, and then he would show you what he wanted done, and then he would be really involved for that aspect, and then we would move on. But I thought that was really good. That's why he had a lot of that went on and were very good head coaches, is because he let his coaches coach, and he hired good coaches.
He used to talk a lot about in press conferences educating the fans, and I never really understood that until one day he had a wireless mic on. He'd asked me to put a wireless mic on him because he was going to yell at everybody, and he wanted the fans to know that they weren't playing defense the way they should, and he was going to show them how it worked. And he did that for about a half hour, and then he just left. And he went upstairs, and I thought he was going to the bathroom, so I took the headsets off because I didn't want to listen to that. But then when he didn't come back, I kind of put him back on, like, what's he doing? And he was in the middle of a phone call with Bobby Knight, and they were both really ticked off about what they were saying was that fans were trying to change the game to offense, and kids were coming to campus and didn't want to play defense, and what are we going to do about it because this is terrible. And I remember Eddie saying, we just got to educate the fans. We got to make them understand. I mean, did you see that as a kind of a battle that was going on where he was trying to convince players, look, it's not all about offense. You have to play defense first.
Yeah, and you know what, Mike? I think that battle's still going today. I mean, it's everybody wants to shoot. Everybody wants to, especially nowadays, with everybody's a 3-point shooter. Everybody is a ball handler, and but it's like I always said, I can't remember. At some point, you need stops, even if you're a high I don't know if it's Coach Knight or when he was talking to us, or Coach Sutton, but that was the same. That was Coach Knight, Coach Sutton. That was 6.5 dozen. It doesn't matter, but it was at some point you need 3 or 4 stops in a row to get back in the game, or you need 3 or 4 stops in a row to put somebody away. But at some point you got to make a stand, and teams that can make a stand 1 or 2 times a game are the teams that end up winning the game. But at some point, you got to make a stand, especially on the road on a hostile environment. You got to be able to make a stand. And again, that's, you don't go to college to take charges. You don't go to college to block out. You don't go to college to get between your man and the ball and turn the ball handler and so on and so forth. Everybody talks about offense and wanting to score, and it was no different then. Players wanted to score, and defense was an afterthought. And I think a lot of it was, fans like to see score. They like to see high-powered offenses, but it holds true to this day. Even the way they play today, teams that can get stops win.
He really came along at the right time, because when he got to Arkansas, that was right when the NCAA basketball tournament was starting to be big on TV. And fans, I think, started piling into the arena because they wanted Arkansas to be in the tournament, so every game is important. And then when you got there, in those days, you got more of the revenue than you do now. You got a big chunk of it when you went to the tournament and however many games you played. And they funded a lot of stuff in the athletic department, because for the first time basketball became a revenue producing sport. So all of a sudden you had these indoor track and indoor tennis and better baseball field and all that stuff, and it all came about because basketball was suddenly making money. And what was it about Eddie that always had you guys ready for the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think the message and the procedure didn't suddenly change when you made the tournament. It was, okay, we're in the tournament, great, and now we still have got to run our offensive sets without turning the ball over. We got to get high percentage shots. We got to get stops. We got to rebound. We got to take care of the ball. The message didn't change. It didn't all of a sudden become, we're going to try to do this or we're going to try to do that, and everything. And then all of a sudden, Coach Sutton was more hyped up or more upset or more tense. It was just, okay, it's business as usual, and it's business as usual in the NCAA tournament. So I think that was a thing that was comforting and relaxed us to a degree. I mean, you're always a little nervous regardless because of the tournament, but I just think it helped us play better in the tournament.
I think it was Corey Beck that one time said when things were bad, when he looked at Nolan, he just knew we were going to win. Did you guys have that with Coach Sutton? I mean, you just look over there and see him, and you knew you were going to be okay.
Hey, Mike, we go down to play A&M, and they come rolling out, 6'9", 6'8", 6'7", 6'6", Texas. They'd have all these dudes, and you'd be, especially when I first started playing down there, you're like, wow, look at that. But then you look over there and you see their coach, and you look over there and you see our coach, and you go, all right, I like our odds. I like what we got. So you never felt like you weren't going to be prepared, or you never felt that something was going to happen that you hadn't seen or you couldn't handle, and that was very, very calming, and it made us a confident basketball team.
Yeah, he was always prepared. I remember a game where Abe Lemons got real mad and went on the court, and he was trying to get Darryl kicked out of the game, and then after the game he started complaining to the Southwest Conference office, and he had some meeting where he was going to try to get Darryl suspended. And Eddie went around to each one of us, and he collected video that what we had, all the TV people, Little Rock, Fayetteville, whatever. And then he went to that meeting, and he had all this video, and it showed that the guy that was out of control was Abe Lemons, and Darryl came out fine, and Abe got fired.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Ray Harper. Darryl got in a fight with Ray Harper, and Abe lost his mind thinking Darryl cheap shot at him. And then when you went back and looked at the film, Ray Harper punched him, and that's why Dirk went off. And then so, I mean, again, he was, if he went into a meeting or was going into a game, he was prepared.
You guys had a chance, a bunch of you, to be in that Zoom meeting with him not long before he passed away, and talk about what that meant to you and what you think it meant to him to be able to do that.
Well, I just think it was really great of Brad Stamps at Fayetteville to put that together. It was a great idea, and I was very pleased that so many guys came on. And I just think it was great from the standpoint of, we started talking about Coach, but then we started telling stories. It started, Sydney would be saying something about what happened, and Coach Counts would chime in, and we'd talk. It was fun. Then I could comment on my experience with Coach, but it was in another team's, another era's situation, and it was just funny. I mean, it was a really, really good thing that Brad Stamps put together, and it was very well participated in by players. And I think Steve was there with Coach, and he was saying that Coach was, as best he could, cracking a smile, or, rolling his eyes a little bit. So you hope that he knew what was going on, and you hope that he heard how much we loved him.
Did you hear whether or not he fully understood that he'd been and finally put in the Naismith Hall of Fame? Did he get that and understand what had happened?
Well, Darrell Walker was there. Darrell and Steve, when it all happened, we were calling. I called, and a lot of people were calling, and Coach was there. And Darrell assured me, as did Steve and Scott and Sean, that when the gentleman proclaimed that he had made it, the coaches, closed his eyes and kind of looked up at Steve, and kind of, as best he could, kind of cracked a very smile. So Darrell and all them were very confident that he was very aware of what was going on.
One of the things I always appreciated about him was that he wasn't hypersensitive about criticism. A lot of coaches are. I didn't have to criticize him much, but I did one time, and I don't remember what it was about, and I thought he was probably going to yell at me when I came into practice the next day. But he came up to me and he was laughing, and he said, "Well, I'll tell you one thing." He said, "The people at the Traveler hate you now. You're in real trouble." And he said it like a joke, and we both laughed. I mean, I just always appreciated the fact that he could handle issues. He could let that stuff roll off his back.
Yeah, I mean, not many can do that. Not many could do that then, and not many can do that now. And that tells you that he had things in order. Again, he wasn't perfect, Mike. I mean, as we all know, he had his struggles, but I mean, he didn't sweat the small stuff. I mean, he didn't sweat things that were irrelevant. I mean, he knew that he was very confident in who he was and what he was as a basketball coach. And confident people are not affected by criticism, and he certainly wasn't.
He created, and Bud Walton is nice and all that, but he created an atmosphere in Barnhill that was just unreal. I mean, 94% of his home games he wins there. That's like crazy insane. And I think Abe Lemons put it best one time. He said, you look out there and you see people in the stands, and they look like maybe if they got you outside in the dark, they'd kidnap you and take you out into the woods and cut your throat. He said, I'm scared of those people. And it was exaggerating, but I mean, there was an intimidation factor when you were an opponent and you guys, and they came in to your place.
Well, they did a great job in constructing that place with the kind of the four corner areas that were elevated. And then you had the sides and the end zones that went straight up. But, the best thing that he did was he put the band and Jim Ropkin right there. And you took 9,500 seats with, 500,000 people trying to get in there. And then you put Jim Ropkin up in the corner. That was the fuse for the dynamite. and then you look to fuse with great coaching and great players. And I mean, it was just, they can talk about Cameron Indoor Stadium all they want. I've never been there. I hope, but I can promise I've been to Allen Fieldhouse. They talk about that place. Unbelievable place. Great place. They are not better. I'm not going to say Barnhill's better, but there's no way you can tell me ever that those places are better than Barnhill. They might be as good, they might be as raucous, they might be as loud, but they're not louder and more raucous and crazier. It's just it can't be done. That was as wild a place as there possibly could be on the face of this earth.
And he created that kind of once you're a Razorback, you're always a Razorback, and you're proof of that because you lived your adult life here. You didn't go after you got out of the NBA. You didn't go somewhere else. You stayed here.
Well, and there's so many. I mean, there's just so many guys that have done that, and just, I mean, it's a great place to live. The fans and the state are genuine, and it's real and it's comfortable. And I always laugh when people would say, you know, why when I was leaving Phoenix or leaving Chicago or somewhere, why would you want to go to Arkansas? And I kind of look at them and go, that's just how all of us in Arkansas want you to think.